Good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday, and we've got a lot to get to concerning the Seahawks' big win last night, but thought it would be a good idea to open up the conversation with a little bit of clarity into the injuries that happened last night because there were quite a few, and they are potentially significant. They are two players that we need. So let's go over this, and obviously at this point, we haven't been given minute details. We haven't been given an exact timetable in some cases, so I'm going to have to speculate a little bit. So let's take a look at some things. So, according to Pete Carroll, and this is from last night, by the way, Phil Haynes re-aggravated his calf, and Damian Lewis twisted his ankle. So, Phil Haynes had an injury that kept him out last week. He came back this week, practiced a little bit. They said he was totally fine, and then almost immediately, like a few plays into the game, he re-aggravates it. So I don't know if this is going to be like a Mike Morris situation where he had the shoulder injury, played one game, the shoulder injury came back, and he had to go on IR, and now he's going to miss the whole season. But as much as I know people do like Anthony Bradford right now, and I'm among those people, I like him too. I think he's playing pretty well. I do think this team needs Phil Haynes, if for no other reason than depth, but honestly, he's been playing fairly well so far this year. I know that all he did last night was commit a big penalty that took away a 40-yard pass interference call and then peace out, and people are going to be down on him right now. And I can't get mad at people who are down on him because at the end of the day, Phil Haynes has been a player that gets hurt a lot. I kind of get that to a certain extent. And he's also been a player who has generally not been good even when he's been on the field. This year's kind of an aberration for him so far. So I know that there are going to be some people that are like, okay, no problem, Bradford season. I'm not convinced it's that easy. So I'm really hoping it's not a situation like Mike Morris. It doesn't sound like it is, but I'm very aware of the fact that this is clearly something that was hurt before before this game, and he thought he was better and very quickly realized he wasn't. Damian Lewis twisted his ankle, so given the fact that he got carted off, it could have been a lot worse, right? The dude got carted off the field, or the sideline rather, excuse me. So I think it's safe to say that a twisted ankle is about as good as we could have hoped for, and he's got a chance to not really miss any significant time. Now, we are starting to really get up against it in terms of interior offensive line depth. We are very close to needing Evan Brown to bump over to guard, although he did fine in that role yesterday, so I guess that's good. And we're very close to needing Ben Brown. We're very close to needing to sign somebody or trade for somebody. It's getting a little bit tight here. So Damian Lewis is not playing great so far this year. I understand that, and in many ways, I think he's regressed from last year. But we need him just because we need guys. We need guys who can play. And Damian Lewis, I don't think he's been bad this year. I just think he's regressed. So we need him. Twisted ankle, gotta figure he'll be back sooner rather than later. Seems like the over under on missed games for him would be like zero point 0.5. So I'm feeling okay about that. So that's two reasonable bits of news. The Phil Haynes thing is that could go one way or the other, but they didn't say he broke his leg or has a high ankle sprain or anything like that. Just re-aggravated a calf injury. Could be something that doesn't keep him out for any time. Jarran Reed, this one's a big one, but apparently it's not that big. He has a bruised shin, nothing's broken, should be good after the bye week, according to Carroll. So that's a relief because we don't need to be losing that guy. We need him. He's playing really good right now. Given the fact that he's already missing practice time because of the quadricep and now he has this, you do have to wonder a little bit if this may end up being a ongoing problem this year. That is admittedly a concern for this Jarran Reed situation, but this injury in and of itself is not that big of a deal. Um, we pulled him out of that game. It seems like the fact that we pulled him out of the game last night when we did had more to do with us being ahead and feeling pretty good about our position than it was, oh, he's really injured and can't play football at all. It almost seems like they would have considered keeping him out there if they really needed him. I don't know that for sure, but I think there's a very good chance of that. So Jarran Reed, nothing broken, expected to not miss any games. Then that turns to the Jamal Adams discussion. So Pete Carroll said Jamal Adams will be fine. And you do the math. Concussions, in my experience, traditionally make a player miss a game. Unless he's a quarterback, then he probably misses 2 games. We have a bye week. So we have 13 days between the game we just played and the game that is coming up on week 6. That should be enough time for Adams to get back from this concussion, and if not, then it's definitely enough time for him to get back in time for week 7. So he's going to come back soon. Unless this is one of the super concussions, and I know that sounds kind of weird to say, a super concussion, implying that some concussions aren't that big of a deal, because they're all a big deal, but assuming this is a normal concussion, I don't think he'll have any problems getting back for the Bengals. So the issue with this injury is not so much, this is going to means he's not going to play football anymore and he's never going to get on the field again. The issue is just like, when is this going to end for him? When is he going to stop being the unluckiest person in the world? That's the part we're trying to figure out here, and I don't have a good answer for it. So we're just going to have to continue to monitor that, but based off what I'm hearing, it sounds like he will be back for the Bengals. It would be very surprising if he wasn't. Again, you do have to clear concussion protocol at some point, and sometimes players take longer than expected. But based on the information that we have, I feel like we're going to get him back. So that's Jamal Adams. Then you have the Geno Smith stuff, which in theory, Geno Smith should be fine because he went back and played the whole second half. He didn't play great. He made a few throws. He didn't look awful or anything like that. It didn't look like he was somebody who was going through the motions because he was so amped up. You couldn't keep him out of the game, and they were just like throwing him out there because like the coaches decided to just shrug their shoulders and go, whatever, if you want to go out there, then it's your funeral. It seemed like he was capable of still playing semi-effectively once they got the knee looked at. But we've seen with the Joe Burrow situation, what's going on with Joe Burrow right now in Cincinnati. Just because the guy can play doesn't mean the guy can actually play effectively. And Burrow has been completely neutralized by his injury that he's trying to play through. So we're going to have to definitely monitor that for the next game or so. I'm assuming Geno's not going to miss any time. I don't think there's any way he misses this Cincinnati game. He's going to have a couple of weeks to get right for this one. So I'm not worried about him missing a game. I'm not worried about him being held out. But how will he play? Because in this second half against the Giants, he didn't do anything awful, but he also didn't do anything that made you go, oh yeah, he's 100% fine. He just played fine, basically. He played reasonably well. He played probably a little bit better than Burrow's playing for the Bengals right now with his injury, but he didn't look like a Pro Bowler after the injury. Let's put it that way. So do the math here. All these guys I mentioned in this video, except maybe Phil Haynes, probably going to be back for game 5 against the Bengals. Cross should be back. Trey Brown should be back. Kobe Bryant, good chance to be back. Abe Lucas won't be back until the Cardinals game, but he'll probably be back then. So you do the math around all that. Things are looking pretty good. Things are looking pretty solid. Seems like we've got a real chance to get all these needed players back on the sideline, back on the field. So all in all, given the fact that this is a violent game and there have been a ton of injuries already this year, we are in a pretty good situation, I'd say. I'm pretty happy with where things are, given the fact that we started the year with so many injuries every single game. Seems like it's something else, but we are sitting relatively pretty right now. So we're going to need more information as time goes by, but we're not going to get a lot this week because we don't have a game on Sunday. So we're probably not going to really get concrete updates until next week before our Cincinnati game. But my read on the situation is that Cross, Burns, Bryant, Brown, those guys should be back. All the guys who got hurt last night, except maybe Phil Haynes and maybe even Phil Haynes, will be back for the next game. Probably missing one or two guys. Like Kenny McIntosh may still not be ready to go. Mike Morris obviously out for the season, but generally speaking, trending in the right direction, guys. That's all you can ask for. I know that there have been a lot of injuries, but trust me, there are teams out there that have it way worse. Like I'm sure the Jets would trade all of the injuries we've dealt with so far this season if they could just have Aaron Rodgers back. All right, see you guys later. Go Hawks. A lot more to talk about later today, but feel relief that nothing that happened yesterday seems to be particularly devastating.